Hi, and welcome to Noble Character Crafts. My name is Amy, and I'm coming to you from eastern Nebraska, where I live with my husband and our 5 children. Today is Friday, September 27th, 2024. A huge welcome to any new or returning viewers. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you really enjoyed this episode. This is a channel all about my crafty life, and today I have knitting, crocheting, and some sewing to share with you all. I will have links to the places that you can find me in the description box below, as well as the show notes for this episode. I have a few finished objects to share with you all today. The first one I am wearing, and I am so pleased that I was able to finish this romance cardigan, a design by Tricot Design MCL. And I have finished this as one of the projects off of my Make 9 list for the Make 9 2024 now that I am hosting on Instagram. I have 2 more of my projects from my Make 9 board as works in progress that I'll share with you, and then I only have 1 more project that I have yet to start and finish off of my board, but otherwise I believe that this is my 6th project that I finished off of my Make 9 board. So I'm well on my way to completing my board. But as I've repeatedly said, it's not required that you finish your board. But I'm really excited that I think I'll be able to finish my Make 9 board this year. That doesn't always happen for me, for sure. So although I did have to make an adjustment to one of my projects, which I'll share a little bit later on in this episode. But anyway, I'll explain that later. Anyway, back to this project. I am so pleased with how this turned out. I really feel like it's the best fitting cardigan that I've made for myself to date, and I'm really so pleased with it. It was knit from the top down, starting with the back piece and then the side pieces. And then after I got past the underarms, I did both of the sleeves, and I ended up blocking it, I believe, at least twice, maybe 3 times prior to finishing it. I think twice. And then I did a final 3rd block when I was all done, just to help me decide what length to make it. Yes, after I made the first sleeve, I blocked it to see how much the sleeve would grow, and it did grow a little bit. So I'm glad I did that. And I was able to adjust the sleeve length. And then after I got the body to a length that I thought it would be good, I went ahead and blocked it then as well. And yeah, I'm really happy with how it turned out. I started this on July 18th and finished it on September 22nd. I used Knit Picks Wool of the Andes in the sport weight in the Pampas Heather colorway. That is a 100% Peruvian Highland wool non-superwash yarn. And I'm really pleased with how it has worked up. I love the coloring of the heathered yarns from Knit Picks. I also have just recently become an ambassador for Knit Picks. I'm not really exactly sure what all that entails. The majority of it, it seems like, is expecting the ambassadors to post on Instagram and kind of rave about Knit Picks yarn. And I don't do that. I haven't done that. I'm not going to probably go out of my way to do that because it's just not something that I'm really interested in doing. If you watch my videos and even if you see my posts on Instagram, you'll know that I like Knit Picks yarn because I consistently use it over and over again. But I am not probably going to go out of my way to go overboard about how amazing I think the yarn is. I think my use of it over time just shows how much I appreciate it and enjoy working with it. But they have given me a code, which I will put here on the screen. If any of you want to use this code at checkout, and you'll receive 10% off your order. I don't believe that's an affiliate link or anything. I don't think I'm getting anything back for that. As far as I have been told, I don't think I'm getting a benefit for you using that code. But if you would like to get 10% off your order for Knit Picks, then you can go ahead and use this code. And other than that, I really don't know what else the ambassador program entails. I think it's just you can get some rewards if you post so many times on Instagram per month, including your praise over the yarn, but like I said, I'm probably not going to be participating in that aspect of the ambassador program, but feel free to use this code if you would like to get some a discount off of your yarn order. Anyway, I am really happy with this yarn, and I've used Knit Picks Wool of the Andes many times. I haven't used the sport weight in a garment before, so I really am pleased with the weight of this. You know, using the sport weight, I really like that. It is just a nice weight for a garment, I think. Okay, the construction of this garment was a little bit different than what I have made before, in that I think I've only made raglan and yoked garments. So I'm not really sure what this one is actually called, if it's a set-in sleeve. I actually don't know, but when you start the sleeve, you do a bit of short rowing, a short row shaping to get the sleeve to be really nicely shaped. And I love how that was done. I thought it was so well written. The pattern is very well written. I didn't have any concerns about how the pattern was written at all. There is also some short row shaping on the back of the neck for a really good fit there. I had thought about making the cardigan a little bit longer in the body than what was recommended, but I actually decided not to do that. In fact, I made it a little bit shorter than what is recommended because I was really liking how it fit. For the sleeves, there are two options. You can either do a balloon sleeve or a straight sleeve. I did this straight sleeve, so you just do no decreases, nothing at all. You just do the sleeve cap, and then the sleeve is just knit straight. And then at the end, there's a couple of decrease rounds to cinch it in. 1x1 ribbing, and I did a tubular sewn bind off for the bind offs on the cuffs and also the bottom ribbing. I'll stand up in a minute so that you can see how long I made it. Let's see, I used US 6 4mm needles for the majority of the garment. I did go down to US 2.5 3mm needles for the ribbing on the sleeves, but I decided not to decrease my needle size for the ribbing on the body, just because I didn't want it to really cinch in. I wanted it to lay flat. And then I used a US 3.25mm needles for the button band. So once I finished the body, then I picked up all along the button band and the neckline and did 1x1 ribbing along there for a few rows as well. And then at the very end, it has this crocheted scallop detail along the edge, which I love so much. I did have to adjust the I had to do my own thing for the scalloping. She was having you skip more stitches in between each scallop according to her instructions. She has a tutorial video that is included with the pattern. But when I tried following her instructions, it was the ribbing was getting pulled too much because it was too tight. So I ended up not skipping as many stitches as she recommended and making more scallops. But I did follow her instructions for how to make the scalloped detail. For that, I used a 3.25mm hook, which is called a D hook. I also made my own buttons using the Dorset cross wheel button method. I have made these before for cardigans that I have made, and I use a tutorial on YouTube by Gina B. Silkworks, I think. I will link to it down below so that you can view that video if you're interested in learning how to make your own buttons. I really love doing that because then, of course, I can just use the yarn and it matches perfectly, and it's just another detail of a handmade item that you can add to your garment, and I just think that's so much fun. I just use washers from the hardware store that are the right size, and then I wrap my yarn around that. So it's a closed washer from the hardware store. They're super cheap, and then you can just use your little extra bits of yarn and make beautiful buttons. So that's what I did. I love them so much. So I ended up knitting to 11 inches under the arm before I did my ribbing, and I think that the original pattern called for you to make it 13 inches under the arm before doing the ribbing. So I actually ended up shortening it, which is typical for me. So I'll go ahead and stand up so that you can see how it's looking. So here it is. I'm really happy with how it is fitting. It fits, well, let's see. It's fitting basically like right on my hips, I guess. So my belly button is right here, so it's fitting right next to my belly button. And I am really happy with the length of it. I think it is just a great length. I did try it on with some high-waisted jeans as well, and it fits really nicely with that, although I don't typically wear jeans. I typically wear what I'm wearing right now, which is leggings and then a shorter dress over top of my leggings. So I really love how it looks with this outfit. And yeah, I'm really pleased with the fit of it. There's no shaping in the body at all. It's just knit straight, and I love the look of that. Turn around so you can see the back. But it's plain, so not much to show there. And yeah, I just think it's a really fun sweater or cardigan, and I can definitely see myself making this again because the fit of it is just perfect. I just love the fit of it so much. It's just easy and very flattering. I don't know that I'll wear it opened much, but I suppose I could. I haven't really unbuttoned it and unbuttoned it much yet, so the buttonholes are, I don't know, not used to being, I don't know, I'm not used to buttoning it much. I think the more that if I were to unbutton it a lot, then the holes would kind of open up a little bit better, I guess. But it's not hard to get these buttons in and out. It's just the strings around the buttonholes kind of, I don't know, kind of get caught on the button once in a while, maybe. I really don't think I'll wear it open much. I usually wear my cardigans closed. But here it is open, so I could. It's nice that way too. I guess it would be easier to throw it on and off. That is kind of the point of cardigans. So it would definitely work like this too. And I like that also. I'm so pleased with it. I wish I could keep it on for the rest of the episode, but it's like 80 degrees here, so I still can't really enjoy wearing this cardigan yet, but I'm so pleased with it. While I have my chair backed up, I'm going to show off another finished object that I was able to get done, and it is a scrappy blanket. I used a bunch of worsted weight 100% acrylic yarn leftovers to make this zigzag crocheted afghan. And there it is in its entirety. Last time I showed this off was a while ago. I don't know how long ago, but a few episodes ago at least, probably several episodes ago. And I had left off at this pink. So then last time on my last episode, I showed you that baby blanket that I had finished. And here's a few of the leftovers from that baby blanket. And then I just had a few other little scraps that I added in. And I'm really happy with how this turned out. It's just it was really easy to make, really colorful. And I just did random stripes, obviously. You can tell that I just used scraps. Some of the stripes are pretty wide and some of them are super little and narrow, just a few stitches even. Some of them are tiny little scraps. But I love how this turned out. I think it's really a fun use of some extra yarn. It was just laying around and needed a project to go into. I did not follow a pattern for this. Well, I followed a pattern, but not a published pattern. I just did my own thing. And I will include notes in the description box below if you're interested in making a blanket in the same way that I did. I used an H 5mm hook. I started this on March 31st of this year and I finished it on September 20th. I started with a chain of 200 or so. I don't ever count my starting chain. I kind of did a rough count probably for this one, but I didn't do an exact count. But I always just do that. I just make a chain that I think will be long enough and then make it a little bit longer. And then when I do my first crochet row, that's when I decide how long or how wide to make my blanket. And then I inevitably have a few extra chains, and I just snip that little tail of extra chains pretty short and unravel those few first chains that I'm not needing. And that works out really well. Then I don't have to worry about counting and deciding how big to make my blanket when it's just a chain, because that's kind of hard to tell when it's just a chain how wide it's actually going to be, especially with a scallop pattern that really, you know, changes the width of the pattern. So it's nice to be able to do that first row and then kind of get an idea, a better idea of how wide the blanket is going to be. This blanket measures 46 inches by 61 inches, so it's a nice throw size. And this is just going to be staying in our family, so we're just going to use it as a throw in our living room. And yeah, I think that is all I have to say for this one, but I really enjoy doing scrappy blankets, and this was a really fun, colorful one to work on. I have a few other finished objects. I was able to finish my Colorwork Cuff Club socks for the month of September, designed by Summer Lee. I am part of the Colorwork Cuff Club, which, if you're not familiar with it, it is a monthly colorwork design that Summer is putting out. Every month she's putting out a new design for a colorwork pattern to add to the cuff of a sock. And she at least comes out with one pattern. Sometimes she may give those of us that are participating more than one pattern. This month she gave us the cuff pattern, and then she also gave us instructions to do the color work throughout the entirety of the sock. But as you can see, I decided just to do the color work on the cuff part. So for these, I cast on 60 stitches, which is a variation from the original pattern, but I just know that that is what works best for my socks. I cast on 60 stitches using US 0.2mm needles, and I did 2x1 ribbing as she calls for. I did do it for a little bit longer than what she recommends. I did it for 1 inch instead of 3/4 of an inch. And I just used a little tiny scrap of some gray yarn that I dyed myself for the cuffs. Then for the color work, I used some bare yarn, a mini from Autumn and Indigo that was gifted to me. And then I used a sock set that was also gifted to me by Lindsay of Always Yarn First. This was a sock set by Yarn Inc. in the Amore, an Amore sock set. So it came with a 100-gram full skein and then a 20-gram mini, which is this deep burnt orange color. And they're all fingering weight yarns. They're all 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon yarns as well. For the color work, I increased my needle size to a US 2.53mm set of 9-inch circular needles. And I increased my stitch count to 72 stitches, which is the large size in the sock pattern. That really helps me to be able to get a nice loose fit throughout the color work. I've mentioned before, but I'll just say really quickly again that I have made color work socks in the past that have ended up being too tight on my feet. So I really have been working to get these socks to be loose enough for my large instep. And it works really well for me to increase my stitches by a lot. I increase my needle size by quite a bit. When I'm working with 9-inch circulars, my gauge loosens up as well, so that also helps. And then I also knit the color work inside out so that my floats are being wrapped around the outside of my sock tube while I'm doing the color work, and that helps to just stretch those floats a little bit more. I can flip this so that you can see the floats if you're interested. They're nice and loose, and this is able to fit over my foot really nicely. So I'm so pleased that I'm able to make these color work socks. I just love them so much. Summer Lee's Original design is for there to be stripes throughout the body of the sock, so striping 2 different colors throughout the body, but I decided just to use 1 color for the body of my socks. I did the color work on the 9-inch circulars, but then I switched back to, after the color work, I switched back to 60 stitches, so I decreased again to 60 stitches and put my socks on magic loop, knitting them 2 at a time on the same needle, which is my preferable way to knit socks. I did an extra 40 rounds after the color work before I did the slip stitch heel flap. And I didn't look at her instructions for the heel flap and gusset and toe. I just do the sock pattern that I have memorized, which is the instructions by Kay Litton of the Crazy Sock Lady. I have her instructions for making socks memorized, and so that's what I always do when I'm making my own socks as far as heel flap, gusset, and toe decreases. For my socks, I always add 30 rounds of a slip stitch detail to the ball of my foot because I tend to wear holes in my socks in that area really quickly, and it has really proven to be very effective to add some slip stitch detail to the ball of my foot. So it's very similar to a slip stitch heel flap where you're just doing 1 round of slip 1, knit 1 across the bottom of the sock, and then the second round you just knit plain. You repeat those 2 rounds for a total of 30 rounds. That's what works best for me anyway, to get a little bit more in reinforcement in that section of my sock. I started these on September 1st and finished them on September 19th. And I'm so pleased with them. I think they're super fun. And I can't wait for October 1st to start the next pair. I'm really excited to continue to work on these socks throughout the year. I also finished a pair of easy slippers for my husband's aunt. She had, I showed on my last episode, I didn't grab the old pair to show again, but she had a pair of slippers very similar to these that her grandmother had crocheted for her, and she had worn a hole in the bottom of the heel area of her slippers, and she just loved these slippers and asked if I would be able to figure out how to make a new pair for her. And I found this free pattern on Ravelry called Easy Slippers by Naztazia. It actually links to a web page. So anyway, I will link to that pattern as well. They're very, very simple to make. I could tell from the original slippers that Chris's aunt gave to me that the slippers were made using what I think is probably worsted weight acrylic yarn, and she held 2 strands of yarn together to make the socks or the slippers. I decided to use some yarn that had a bit of nylon in it to hopefully be stronger. The yarns that I used for this are, the pink one is Louisa Harding Cassia in Sorbet. That's 75% wool, 25% nylon. And I held it together with a black yarn that is Yarn Bee Must Be Merino in black, 50% merino wool, 25% acrylic, 25% nylon. And I held those together. They're both DK weight. I'm not sure if that fiber content is stronger than 100% acrylic, but I assume it is because that's typically what you would make socks with. And so I just thought that that would be better to use more of a sock content, fiber content for these slippers, hoping that they will wear better than 100% acrylic. But I'm not really sure if that is the case or not. I suppose acrylic is pretty hard wearing too. But anyway. So I went down in weight because I'm pretty sure the original slippers were made using worsted weight, and these were made using DK weight. So anyway, I had to adjust the stitches to get the right fit, but it's okay. They worked out pretty well. I ended up starting with a chain of 51 stitches, and then the way that these are made is you are just doing a single crochet stitch into the back loop only, and then just crocheting across each row, and always crocheting into the back loop only, and single crochet stitches throughout American terms. You end up making a rectangle. I did a total of, well, it would probably be a total of 41 rows, I counted the ridges. Every 2 rows makes kind of a little ridgy bump, and I counted my ridges. I had 20 ridges plus 1 extra row, so I suppose that was about 41 rows that I crocheted. And then you just fold it in half, sew up the back, then you cinch up the toe, and then sew across the top here as well. And yeah, it's just a super simple construction. But they fit really nicely, and I actually had finished the first one and took it to Chris's aunt to have her try it on, make sure it was going to work, because I felt like it was maybe a little bit tighter than the original slippers, and I wanted to make sure it was going to work for her before I worked on the second one. She said it fit great, so I just went ahead and made the second one, which actually worked up super quickly. It only took me a couple of days to make the second one. So I started these on September 2nd and finished them on September 24th. I used a 4mm crochet hook, and I think that covers it. I'm excited to give these to her this weekend, and hopefully she'll like them and get lots of use out of them. I was so happy to be able to make them for her. I have one more finished object, and that is a sewing project. I made myself a new project bag. I actually ended up making 2 of these, and I gifted one of them to a friend of mine from church, Michelle, and then she gifted me some yarn, so I'll show that in a second. But anyway, I made this large project bag for myself using some pretty fabric that I got from Hobby Lobby, I believe. I'm pretty sure it's from Hobby Lobby. I got it last year, I think. I've had it for a little while, so I think I got it last year. Anyway, I just really think it's so pretty for fall. The bottom is some corduroy that I have had in my stash. If you've watched for a while, I have used this before. I made a hinterland dress out of it. This fabric used to be curtains hung up in my old house in my bedroom. And anyway, so I still have a little bit of this brown corduroy, and I just thought it works so nicely for the base of this bag because it's a little bit thicker and perfect again for a cozy fall look. And then the contrast fabric here is this tan gingham, and that's also what I used for the inside of this bag. And I have a pocket on the inside, and you can see a sneak peek of my next work in progress that I am excited to share with you. But I'm really happy with how this bag turned out. And then I made another one exactly like it that I gifted to Michelle. And then she got me some yarn that I'm so excited about. She ordered herself a set of this West Yorkshire Spinners Christmas collection yarn. It is the Signature Sparkle 4-ply. The colorway is called Yuletide. It is fingering weight, 75% wool, 23% nylon, 2% polyester for this sparkle. And then the coordinating color is 75% wool, 25% nylon. It's just the Signature 4-ply, and the color is called Evergreen. So those are so beautiful together, and I was so touched that she thought to order me some yarn as well when she was making her order. So thank you again, Michelle. I just appreciate you thinking of me so much. I'm so excited about this yarn, and I can't wait to have some Christmas socks in these colors. It's so fun. And then she also gave me a few skeins of some yarn that she had left over from a beautiful sweater that she knitted last year. It is Jamieson and Smith yarn, and it's a lace weight. This is 100% Shetland wool from the Shetland Islands. The color is probably a number, which I can't really read very well. Maybe 95? I can't really tell very well. But anyway, it is a lace weight, and they're both 25 grams each in this pretty pink color. So I've never tried Jamieson and Smith yarn before, so I'm excited to work with these this yarn as well. So then I'm on to my works in progress now, and the first one I have to share with you is another project from my Make 9 board. This is the one that I was mentioning I had to make an adjustment on. a bit of a mess here. So one of the projects from my Make 9 board was called the Caspar jacket. And I have the designer here. Her name is Johanna or Johanna. Maybe it's pronounced Johanna. And her last name is Gehrisch. And the design was called Caspar jacket. And I went to go purchase it and it said it was no longer available for some reason. She has a lot of beautiful patterns, but not all of them are available right now. There was at least another one, maybe a couple more designs that I was looking through that had the same issue where if you went to go purchase it, it would link you to her website, but then it would not allow you to purchase the pattern. So I don't know why that is, but I thought, well, I had already done a gauge swatch for that pattern and had met gauge, but I thought I would just go ahead and check through Ravelry and see if I could find any other cardigan sweater. I really wanted to make a cardigan that was knit from the top down, V-neck, and the yarn that I had to work with is Knit Picks Wool of the Andes, worsted weight, held together with a loft, which is a lace mohair. And they're both in the cranberry colorway. Here they are. So the wool of the Andes, again, is 100% Peruvian Highland wool, non-superwash. And then the Aloft, I've used before, is 72% Super Kid mohair and 28% silk. And anyway, when I had done a gauge swatch, I got 15 stitches to 4 inches using US 8 5mm needles. And so I just did a search for patterns that had between 14 and 16 stitches for a gauge swatch so that I could kind of get it close, so I could get close to that gauge swatch that I had already done. Anyway, I found a new pattern that I have decided to start, and I'm very excited about it. It's a new pattern by Lily Kate France, which I really admire her designs, but I've actually never knit any of her designs before, so I'm very excited to be knitting one of her designs. And she recently came out with this cardigan called Close to Me cardigan. That's not a great picture of it, but it's a pretty simple design. It just has some fun garter stitch detailing on the shoulders and the cuffs and along the hem. It's meant to be quite an oversized fit. Let's see. The recommended ease is quite a few inches, but now I can't remember. Oh, 6 to 7 inches of positive ease. I don't typically wear my clothes with a lot of positive ease. I like a closer fitting cardigan. And so I am making a smaller size than what's recommended, and hopefully it'll work out okay for me. I ended up going down 1 needle size from my gauge swatch because this gauge calls for 16 stitches to 4 inches. So instead of using an 8, I went down to a 7 4.5mm needle for the main body of the cardigan. And I think that's working out pretty well. I just started this yesterday. No, 2 days ago, on the 25th. But it's going really well so far. I am making the second size. And this is a similar construction to the Romance cardigan in that you start with some short row shaping on the back piece. And then you pick up for the 2 front pieces. I've already done the right front. I have lots of needles because there's lots of things being held, that need to be on hold for a little bit. So I've got the back stitches on 1 needle. I've got the right section on another set of needles. And now I'm working on the left front section. I'm in the garter stitch detailing here on the front section. Well, it kind of goes over the shoulder. So it sits kind of like that. And then it will be joined together to go under the arm. So I'm planning on knitting this in the same manner that I did with the other cardigan, where I'll connect everything under the arm, and then once I get past that section, then I'll probably do my sleeves before I finish the body of the cardigan. I'm also planning on cropping this probably a little bit from what the original pattern calls for, again, just because that's how I typically wear cardigans, and I enjoy the fit of a bit of a cropped fit. So that's what I'm planning on doing. The fabric that this is knitting up to have is so nice and soft, and it's working up pretty quickly because it's a, pretty big gauge. So I'm enjoying it a lot. When you do the garter sections, you do go down a needle size. So I went down to a US 4 3.5 millimeter set of needles for the garter. That's what I'm using right now on this little section here. But it's going really well. Lily Kate France's instructions are very, very well written, very clear, and I'm not having any issues at all. It's so simple to follow her instructions. I am enjoying this project a lot, and I think it will work up pretty quickly, so I'm excited about that. I am also I have another sewing project to share with you as a work in progress. I am making another hinterland dress, finally. I mentioned before that I've had this fabric cut out for a very long time, and I just kept putting off trying to sew it up. So I have made 3 other hinterland dresses. This will be my 4th. And I am making the size 2 in this pattern as well. This is a pattern by Sew Liberated. The fabric that I'm using is a knit jersey that I ordered from Joanne. It is a stretch jersey knit fabric, 85% polyester, 15% spandex, in this pretty floral. I have made several modifications to the pattern. I am making view B with cap sleeves it will eventually have, and I'm making the shorter version, but I did add 3 inches to the length of the shorter version, so the skirt portion will be added to the bodice here eventually, and it will be a short skirt, but it will be a little bit longer than the original pattern's short length. And then for the neckline, I have lowered that 3.5 inches, and I have eliminated the bust darts, and I am not going to be adding in the pockets on the skirt that are included with the pattern. I am using a straight stretch stitch for the seaming, and it's going pretty well so far. I haven't done a ton of work. The next thing that I need to do is the neckline finishing. I forget what that's called now, but anyway, I need to make a strip for the neckline and then make it pretty. And then I'll be sewing on the sleeves and then adding the skirt. So it should be not too much work to get this done, but I'm not an experienced sewist, and so it takes me a while to get up the gumption to do much with sewing. But I'm happy that this is finally in the works, and hopefully it will work up pretty well. We'll see how it goes. I have an update on my Scrappy Hexy flower motif blanket that I've been working on. Last time I had an episode, I shared this one that was in progress, and I finished it. So I am using a tutorial that I have here on my YouTube channel called the Hexy Scrappy Blanket Tutorial, and I go through how to make this hexagon pattern. In the tutorial, I make each hexagon with 3 different colors, but for this project, I am making each hexagon with only 1 color. So that's a bit of a modification. But other than that, I'm using fingering weight yarn, 2.75 millimeter hook. I'm joining as I go, which I show in the video how to do that. And I will eventually make a total of 28 of these motifs that I will seam together with some bare colored hexies. So in between each hexagon motif, there will be a row of bare colored hexagons in between each floral motif. This is number 21 of the number of hexies that I need to make, so I'm getting close to having all of them done. Here is number 22. I love the colors in this one so much. and then number 23. So I'm really pleased with how these are coming along. I started this project in May, I think. Yes, May 14th. And so I only have 5 full hexies to finish, and then I need to make 4 half hexies for the blanket, and yeah, then I'll be on my way to starting to get to piece this blanket together, which I'm super excited about. Okay, another project, well, I'll talk about this one next. I picked up this project that I have kind of had hibernating for several months probably. This is another project from my Make 9 board. This is the Italian Winter Shawl, which is a free pattern by Francesca of an Italian Knitter. This is another one of the projects from my Make 9 board that I had just had on hold because, I don't know, I had too many things going on and I just had to put it on hold. Anyway, I started this back in March and I am really happy to get back to it now. It's being held in a project bag that I made myself. And I am using leftover Knit Picks palette yarn, which is fingering weight 100% Peruvian Highland wool. I'm using a lot of scraps that are left over from the Ariana cardigan that I made earlier this year. And I am holding 2 fingering weight yarns together for this shawl. The original calls for worsted to Aran weight yarn, I believe. I'm using US 6 4mm needles. And I just used up all the scraps that I could, and I'm just switching yarns whenever the yarns run out. I'm using the Russian join method whenever I need to join in a new color of yarn. It's a very simple pattern. The original has eyelet details every once in a while that I eliminated from the pattern, so I'm just doing plain garter stitch, and then it has a nice I-cord border around on the edges. But you're just going along and increasing as you go. Last time I shared this on a video, I was at the beginning of this black and white section. Here's a progress keeper that Tracy of Grizzly Knits gifted to me. That's marking where I was. And now I am holding this golden color along with the black. And I still want it to be I want it to be pretty big to wrap. The intent of this shawl is to be kind of a early morning wrap that I can just throw on first thing in the morning when I'm chilly. And I want it to go past my elbows, so I still want to go a bit further. But it's just a fun, easy pattern that I'm enjoying working on. I'm glad I've gotten back to it, and yeah, pretty simple. I have 2 new works in progress that I have started. The first one has quite a story to it. I made a scrappy Afghan using up DK and worsted weight yarns. I started it in December of 22 and I finished it in December of 23. I will put a picture of it here so you can see what it looked like. It was called the Chevron Granny Ripple Blanket. I followed a tutorial by Bella Coco. And I was so happy with it when I finished it. But after using it, we just used it as our family, we just used it. And I found that the holes in the blanket were just way too big for my taste. I used it once this summer. It was obviously summertime, so it was warm, but we had a fan on and the ceiling fan on, and I was just a little cool and other people in the room weren't. So I just grabbed that blanket to put on and cover up to warm up. And even in the summertime, it wasn't warm because the holes were too big. And I just wasn't happy with it. The gauge was just too loose for my taste. And I didn't feel like it was really a practical blanket because it wasn't really serving its purpose. It also was extremely long. I made it extra long, and it was a bit too long. It just wasn't working. So I just wasn't really happy with it. So I decided to frog it and use the yarn for a different blanket. I also had started another scrappy blanket using up DK worsted weight yarns earlier this year, and that was called, I shared it only on one, maybe 2 episodes. It was called the Dreamy Shells blanket from one of my A Year of Afghans books, as a leisure arts book. And anyway, I really wasn't happy with how that was looking. The scrappiness of it in that pattern wasn't working. I didn't love it. So I decided to rip that one out as well. And I've combined all these yarns together and I've started a new blanket. And if you have watched my videos for a while, you won't be surprised that I chose to make the Rainbow Ripple baby blanket pattern by Celeste Young. It's one of my favorites. I've used it for lots of different things, mini baby blankets. I have used it to make dishcloths, and I have another scrappy blanket that I haven't shown in a very long time using only Christmas fingering weight leftovers. And anyway, now I am making a DK / worsted weight blanket using the primary fiber content in these yarns is wool, and there's also some cotton in here. And it's just super scrappy and fun, and here is my progress. So this is a free pattern. If you're not familiar with it, it's great. It's so easy and fun, and I enjoy working this pattern up so much. I am using a pretty small hook. I'm using a 3.5 millimeter hook, which is pretty tight for the worsted weight scraps, but the majority of my yarn that I am using is DK weight. And I made a baby blanket using DK weight yarn earlier this year using a 3.5 millimeter hook, this same pattern. And I really like how that one turned out, the gauge of it. So this one, you know, there's no big holes at all. It's all a nice tight weave. And I think it's so much fun. So I am just happily working on this, and I've never made a big Afghan for our family to use that is circular in shape, but I think it'll be kind of fun to have one. Well, I'll eventually have 2 when I finish that Christmassy one, but who knows when that will be. Anyway, I have a ton of yarn here from frogging that blanket, and then I have a few other scraps. Can you see the size of this one ball? It's so huge. That's obviously from the blanket. It's not all of it. I made a few extra balls, but that's the biggest one. It's enormous. Anyway, so I have a lot of yarn that will go into this blanket, and I'm again using the Russian join method as I join the different yarns together. That's one of my favorite ways of joining yarn, and it's super fun, and I just love making scrappy blankets, and I love this pattern, so it's making me very happy. I have one more work in progress, which is being held in another bag that I sewed myself. And it is a baby-sized musselburgh hat designed by Ysolda Teague. And I am enjoying this as well. Oh, I forgot to mention when I started that last one. I started the, I didn't mention this either. I started the Hinterland dress on September 24th. I started the Scrappy Blanket on September 14th, and I started this baby-sized musselburgh on September 18th. And I just measured it, and I think I'm at about 9 inches, so I have a little bit further to go before I'm ready to start doing the decreases. But I'm sure most of you are familiar with this, but it will eventually be a long tube that will then have decreases at the other end, and then I will fold the hat into itself so it will be double thick, and then it should be able to be folded up with a brim as well. Kind of like that. The yarn that I'm using was gifted to me, but it did not have a label. It's fingering weight, and it seems to be kind of a sock weight, a sock makeup of yarn, but I'm not sure if it's 100% merino wool or if it has some nylon content in it. I'm not sure, but I love the colors. I thought it was perfect for a little baby girl with the pink, cream, and gray colors throughout. So that's been a really nice project just to have on the go. knitting it in the round. I'm using 1.5, 2.5 millimeter needles, and I got a gauge of 8 stitches to 1 inch. So that's a really fun project to have on the go as well. Those are all of the projects that I have to share with you, but I received some more yarn from a viewer of this channel that I have to share with you all. So I received a message from a lady that lives nearby to me that watches this, named Sharon, and she said that she was going through her yarn and getting destashing a lot of her yarn, and she wanted to share it with me. So she was very patient with me because she was trying to email me, and I'm not very good at checking my email. And she was trying to meet up with me to give me this yarn, and eventually we were able to make it work out that I was able to meet her, and she gifted me 2 huge bags of yarn plus a 3rd bag that was a little bit smaller. So I have all of this yarn in front of me to share with you all if you're interested in seeing what she gave to me, and the majority of the yarn that she has given to me will be gifted back to those of you who are participating in the Make 9 Mal, probably in years to come, because I have been gifted lots of yarn by viewers of this channel that I will be gifting to those of you who participate in that make along. But I will just go ahead and share all of the goodies that she sent my way. First of all, we have a Knit Picks palette cake or donut in the teal colorway. So I already talked about this yarn, 100% Peruvian Highland wool. We have an On Light Super Sock Utah color with aloe vera and something else. It's in German, so I can't read it. It says Jojo Beol, but I'm not sure what that is. It's 75% wool, virgin wool, and 25% polyamide, 100 grams. And yeah, it's really pretty. There's a picture of how it stripes, probably that one, I guess. I have a skein of Knit Picks Hawthorn in the Compass Kettle Dye colorway. This is fingering weight, 80% superwash fine Highland wool, 20% polyamide. That's such a pretty bright color. I have some Patton's Croy Socks yarn, 2 skeins in this fun colorway called Route 66. This is 75% washable wool, 25% nylon. It's a heavy fingering, more like sport weight yarn. And then there's also this fun colorway by Patton's Croy called Fern Rose Jacquard. There's 2 skeins and they look really similar. One of them has a label and one does not, but the feel of them, I'm confident that they are the same yarn. This one has the label. It says Red Heart Eco Cotton Blend, 75% recycled cotton and 25% acrylic. Worsted weight, this one is in the denim colorway, and then there's a cream one too that I'm pretty sure matches. We have 2 skeins of Knit Picks Felici in the Boardwalk colorway. This is fingering weight, 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. Beautiful colorway, and if you are familiar, Knit Picks has not been making Felici lately, so that's pretty special to get some Felici. Then there's also 2 skeins. One has been frogged, I guess, of Knit Picks Stroll Glimmer in the Parrot colorway. This is 70% fine superwash merino wool, 25% nylon, and 5% stellina fingering weight. We have 2 little cakes of Adria Fill Knit Kohl yarn, and it is I don't know, I'm trying to look for the colorway or the makeup. It's 100% merino superwash wool. The color is, I guess, just a number, 79. But there's 2 cakes of this. Very pretty. I'm gonna go grab my reading glasses because sometimes reading these labels gets a little tricky. Okay, I have a couple of skeins of this fun artsy yarn. This one is ALP Premier, and then it also says Feza, F-E-Z-A. It is 100 grams. I'm not sure what the makeup of this yarn is. You'd think it'd be on here somewhere, but I'm not seeing it. It's super fun and soft, but I don't see a makeup for it, so that's a mystery one. And then here's another one that's very fun and artsy looking. This is Barocco Monet. 42% rayon, 36% acrylic, 13% cotton, 9% nylon. Color number 3393. 50 grams. I have two skeins, but again, one of them looks like it was frogged. Steinbach wool, Strapaz cotton effect, color number 5, 45% cotton, 42% wool, 13% polyamide, 50 grams each. One skein of Nature Spun by a Nebraska wool company called Brown Sheep Wool Company, or Brown Sheep Company Incorporated, I guess. Color number 305, Impasse Yellow. This is a sport weight, 100% wool. I think that's all the information. Then there's two more from that same company in the Lamb's Pride worsted, which is 85% wool, 15% mohair. This one is in a black color, onyx, and same yarn in the oatmeal colorway. One hank of Yarn Bee Authentic hand dyed tonal in the spa colorway. This is 100% superwash merino wool. Very beautiful color. Here's a little cake of some interesting yarn. It is Fibra Natura, natural fine hand knitting yarns, flax. This is 100% linen in a DK weight pearl colorway. And it's 50 grams. I believe it's caked up, so maybe it's partially used. I didn't weigh it, but it looks like it'd be about a full 50 grams. I'm not 100% sure though. There is one hank of Knit Picks Gloss Lace in the Port colorway. This is 70% merino wool, 30% silk. Two hanks, which are super soft, by La Bebis by Knit Crate. Colorway Ancient Pines, 100% baby alpaca. Fingering weight, 400 yards to 100 grams. Super soft. That's so nice. One hank of Euro yarn by Knit Crate. Sugared Sport, colorway Lapis. 70% superwash merino, 20% nylon, 10% stellina, 300 yards to 100 grams. Vidalana by Knit Crate, Dusk, in the midnight color, 60% Huacaya alpaca, 40% Surrey alpaca, DK weight, 231 yards to 100 grams. Two hanks of Euro yarn by Knit Crate, Cozy, In the Fruit Tea colorway, 45% Huacaya alpaca, I'm probably mispronouncing that, 45% Suri alpaca, 10% stellina in a super bulky weight, 55 yards to 100 grams. I'm not seeing the stellina in it. It's very subtle if it is in there. I don't see a sparkle. It's kind of funny, but anyway. Okay. One skein of Knit Picks, or hank of Knit Picks Stroll Fingering in the Hollywood Hand Painted. This would be a 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon fingering weight. This is some mohair Feza, again, that same brand that I shared before, F-E-Z-A. 40% mohair, 60% acrylic, 100 grams, 547 yards. So that's quite a thin, must be lace weight, I guess. Color number 502. There are 4 cakes. 2 of them might have been used, but maybe not. There's just 2 without a label and 2 with a label. Knit Picks City Tweed DK in the Enchanted colorway. This is 55% merino wool, 25% superfine alpaca, 20% Donegal tweed, 123 yards for 50 grams, and there's 4 of them. Two little balls of this yarn by, I don't know, the label's tucked inside itself. Mini Moki Crystal Palace yarns, 80% merino wool, 20% nylon. Color number 121. I think that's everything that we need to know. Very pretty colors. There's a bag of Knit Picks Kotlin, which is a DK weight in lots of different colors here. I guess I'll pull them out. There's a label that's not on, just an extra label, because it says celery and there's nothing in here that's green. So that just must be an extra one that she had in the bag. But these all look like full skein. So they're 70% Tangus cotton, 30% linen, 50 grams each. We have conch, raindrop, Moroccan red, surf, cerise, and lilac. We have a cake of Malabrigo sock yarn in the Solace colorway. This is 100% superwash merino wool. It's already been caked up. And then 2 cakes of Malabrigo Arroyo, Malabrigo Arroyo in the pure superwash merino wool. So I believe this is DK weight, 335 yards to 100 grams. And again, those are both caked up. We have a cake of blossoms from Wonderland Yarns. And this is in the Cactus Flower colorway. This is 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon, 425 yards to 4 ounces. In this fun gradient. We have 2 cakes of yarn from Mountain Colors hand-painted yarns in the Mountain Goat base, 55% mohair, 45% wool, 230 yards per skein, 100 grams each. And I believe that this is a matching mohair type thing. Looks like the same colorway. It is from the same dyer, Mountain Colors. This is 78% mohair, 13% wool, 9% nylon. Okay, the colorway is called Mystic Lake. But that is not on this one, but it looks like it's the same colorway, just dyed on the mohair. There's a little speck of something else on there. Paper. Okay. I need to get these labels back inside. That one goes in here. And that goes in here. We have 2 cakes. One of them has a label stuck inside, but I could tell they were matching. These are Harrisville Tweed. Harrisville Designs, not Tweed. Harrisville Designs Shetland, New England Shetland, in the String of Pearls colorway. They're both 50 grams, 100% pure wool. I think that tells us what we need to know. Very woolly wool. It would be good for color work or something like that. We have a cake of color changing cotton by Wool's Yarn Creations. It is 100% cotton, colorway Superhero 3. It's 100 grams and 480 yards for 100 grams. Two hanks of Audine wools by Knit Crate, Harmony, in the Jazz color. 41% wool, 26% alpaca, 23% tencel, 10% baby camel, worsted weight. That's fun. Knit Crate used a lot of alpaca yarns, it seems like. Handmaiden fine yarn, 1 hank of this in the Renaissance colorway. Sea silk base, 70% silk, 30% sea cell. 100 grams, 400 meters to 100 grams. Hand dyed in Canada. Audine wools by Knit Crate, Creative Grandma, colorway Flirt, 80% superwash merino, 20% tencel, sport weight, 350 yards to 100 grams. Audine wools by Knit Crate, Interlock. This has TL Yarn Crafts logo on it. Colorway Beaches, 34% cotton, 35% linen, 19% lyocell, 11% nylon, 351 yards to 100 grams. Audine wools Indulgent Sock by Knit Crate. Spa Day colorway, 60% superwash merino, 20% camel, 20% nylon, fingering weight, 400 yards to 100 grams. 2 hanks of Euro yarn by Knit Crate, Cozy, and the Butterfly Pea Flower colorway, 45% Huacaya alpaca, 45% Surrey alpaca, 10% Stellina. So this is like that yellow colored one. Again, I can't really see the Stellina, but there is a type of fiber here that looks a little bit shiny, but it's not like your typical Stellina that you'd see in fingering weight sock yarn. But it's very pretty and soft. I have 3 hanks of Universal Yarn Infusion Hand Paints, 50% superwash wool, 50% acrylic in the Blue Riot colorway. $291 yards to 100 grams. So DK weight, maybe? I think so. 2 hanks of Audine wools, flannel by Knit Crate, buffalo colorway, 47% Surrey alpaca, 38% alpaca wool, 15% non-superwash merino wool, DK weight, 231 yards to 100 grams. Oh, maybe that would be more of a sport weight. That other one. 291. I don't know. I have 2 really old cakes or donuts of yarn by Knit Picks. I assume it's old just because the label looks so different than what I'm used to. This is the Andean silk, 55% superfine alpaca, 23% silk, 22% merino wool in the hollyberry colorway. This one doesn't have a label, but I could tell they matched. I have 3 different yarns from Nashua Hand Knits. The first one is this little 50 gram, 120 yards to 50 grams, Creative Focus Silk, 100% silk. Is there a color number? Color is Sky. And then one in the cilantro base, I guess. Color Soft Green. This is 70% cotton, 30% polyester, 136 yards to 50 grams. And then Nashua again, Creative Focus Superwash, worsted weight, color 36, 100% superwash wool. I have a skein of Loops and Threads Wool-like Simile Lane. Oh, that's just a translation, I think, in French maybe. So Wool-like it's called, and the color is Cool Gray. It is a fingering weight, 85% acrylic, 15% nylon. 2, I think, partial skeins of yarn by Kramer, DK weight, 250 yards to 100 grams. I was just trying to see if I could tell what color it was, but Playtime, maybe? It's called Playtime? I'm not sure. But a pretty soft green color. Another partial skein, I'm pretty sure, of Arvetta. Erlan Arvetta, I think it's pronounced. 75% virgin wool, 18% polyamide, and 7% acrylic. Color 345, probably. There's a lot of German on that. I think it was German. Anyway, a skein of Knit Picks Wool of the Andes in the Hyacinth colorway. This is, again, 100% Peruvian Highland wool. Worsted weight, 110 yards to 50 grams. We have a skein of Baby Bee Sweet Delight prints in the Kitty colorway. It is 100% acrylic. No, it's not. 60% acrylic, 40% polyamide, DK weight. And color is Kitty again. I already said that. I have some larger quantities of yarn in some bags. This one is Classic Elite Yarns Classic Silk, 50% cotton, 30% silk, 20% nylon, 50 grams, 135 yards per gram, and there are 4 of them. but one of them might be partially used. I have 4 skeins of Knit Picks Merino style Hollyberry colorway. This is 100% merino wool. DK weight. I guess I could take them out of the bag so you can see that color better. And then a big bag. I didn't even count how many skeins are in here, but a lot. This is Drops Nepal, 65% wool, 35% alpaca. Let's see, 50 grams each, 82 yards per skein. And the color looks like a number 506. I guess I could take one out. That would be easier than trying to read it through the bag. Oh, it's so, it's got such a fun halo to it with that alpaca. Really a nice color. Okay, then she sent a booklet, which is also by Knit Crate, Inspirations from March 2020. So that has a few patterns in it. And then one hank of unlabeled yarn, but I'm pretty sure it would be a sock yarn. That would be my guess. It's a super pretty color, isn't it? There are 2, 4, 6, 8 cakes of yarn. Many of them have labels, some of them don't, but I'm pretty sure they're all the same base. Now these 2 labels weren't in the cakes when I got this yarn, but I matched them up because I think this is where they belong. They are, the ones that I have labels for are all Cloudborne fibers, Highland Superwash Sock Twist, and these are called Gray Heather, so I assume that they go with these gray heathered yarns. So this is 80% superwash fine Highland wool, 20% polyamide fingering weight. So there are 2 cakes of the gray, and there are 2 cakes of this denim blue colorway, which is called Dolphin Blue. It's so hard to get those little labels back inside sometimes. I don't want them to fall out. There's 1 cake of the Oatmeal Heather colorway. The cakes are coming apart a little bit. And then the last 3 do not have labels, but they look like the same, look and feel just like the others. So there's one in this darker blue color and then 2 in the variegated, but I'm pretty sure these are all the same yarn. So there's quite a few cakes here. Then I have a few cakes or skeins of yarn that do not have labels with them. Well, one has another one that I'm guessing goes together. I'm not 100% sure, but there's this, I don't even know what to call this, cake, I guess, of yarn. And I'm pretty sure this is Red Heart Unforgettable yarn, which is 100% acrylic, I think. It's worsted weight, and this has the colorway Dragonfly, but again, I'm guessing that it matches with this yarn because the label was in the bag, and I was just trying to match it up with what yarn I thought it went with. Yes, it's 100% acrylic, and probably partially used up. And then the rest of the yarn does not have any labels, so it's just a random guess of what it is. This is a thicker yarn in this tan color. This is a bulky yarn with some stellina, I guess. This definitely feels like wool in this green color. This is probably acrylic. DK weight would be my guess. I assume this is a sock yarn. It feels like a 75-25 to me, fingering weight. This feels like wool, probably fingering or sport weight. I'm not sure about this. My guess would be wool and probably DK weight. I think this is acrylic. I'm not sure. It's got some stellina. That's a tricky one. It's a thin yarn, probably fingering to sport weight. And the last one feels like wool to me. And maybe worsted weight would be my guess. So that's everything. Isn't that so generous of Sharon? Thank you so much again, Sharon. I truly appreciate you sending all these lovely goodies my way, and I'm excited to share them with those of you who are participating in the Make Along throughout the upcoming years, probably. So that is everything I have to share with you all. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed seeing the things that I've been working on and the goodies that I've been sent. And I am so grateful that you decided to join me today, and I hope that you're really enjoying the things that you are working on as well. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.